Hello and welcome back to Grey Ghost Outdoors. Today we are going over what I packed for BSA Sea Base High Adventure. So what I did was I basically followed the Sea Base recommended packing list for these coral reef sailing or just sailing in general. Liveaboard sailing has the same packing list for all of them. So basically what I did was I basically followed that. However, I made some additions and I now have some suggestions. So first I'm going to talk about what the weather I dealt with while I was there, so you get a basic idea of what the conditions were that I experienced and what is reflected in my gear. So we went at the beginning, we went in mid-June, and so basically what we had for weather was a bunch of hot during the evenings, sometimes cloudy, but rainstorms, and often rainstorms happened in the evenings. So rain gear was the main thing that I had. But essentially, the weather did not influence most of my packing, but you can keep that in mind as I go through my list. So first, let's cover some clothing that I brought. So the main pieces of clothing that I brought are these here. So basically what they include is a long sleeve shirt, some swim trunks, and some swim underwear. So basically what I did is I have some quick dry underwear, some athletic underwear essentially, swim pants, but I cut the liners out because I don't like them. They are uncomfortable to me, but that's to each their own. If you like the liners, then go for it. You don't even have to pack underwear in that case. And last was a long sleeve. They recommend 50 SPF long sleeve shirt, and I would go with that. And I brought 2 of those. If you look at the packing list on their website or the participants guides, you'll just have 1, and you are perfectly fine with doing that. I would be perfectly fine with wearing these the whole time, just 1. However, after midweek and after a shower, it was really nice to be able to change into a second pair. And second, we have the clothing over here. The packing list does not say to bring pajamas. I packed some anyway. That's what's there. There's some athletic shorts and a t-shirt. However, when I got there, I never wore any pajamas, so they're basically just taking up space in my pack. So I'd recommend not to bring pajamas, but again, a personal preference, and you can make that decision for yourself. Another thing that they suggest is to bring some dry clothes. They recommend shorts, underwear, and 2 pairs of socks. I, once again, did not use any of these clothes while I was there. However, if you want to change into some dry clothes for midweek, or for example, you don't bring any other clothes for the last day or the first day, those are what you can change into. And last was a sun shirt, a Hawaiian shirt. They have a Hawaiian day for some of these things. We just wore them on the last day, and it was nice, but you don't have to bring those either. It's a nice thing to do as a group though. So now moving over to some other items that I brought. The main thing is a sun hat, and this was really great. A wide brimmed hat. I have the Scout one, but any wide brim hat was great. Just to keep the sun off your ears and your nose, and just have a bit of sun protection for that. And then over here we have 2 towels. These are microfiber type towels, quick dry. And I suggest bringing 2 of them. However, they aren't really used. You normally just sun dry on your boat. However, I use the one for the shower and the other for wiping down the parts where I slept on the boat. And once again, over here we have a fleece. Most of the members of my crew said that their fleeces were unnecessary and too bulky, and in truth, the fleece is just recommended for the fall and spring versions of the trip. However, I decided to bring one anyway, and everyone else followed suit. I didn't have much of a problem because my fleece packs down small. However, if you have a large fleece, maybe consider not bringing it or getting a smaller one, because it can take up a bit of space and you're not likely using them. Last thing for the clothing, I have my rain jacket and my rain pants. They're a great thing to have. I got rained on the first night during my watch, so that was a lovely thing to have. And the rain pants may seem not needed because you're obviously getting wet during the day because you're swimming. However, at night, you don't have that bright sun to cool you off, and you don't really have much options to change into, so the rain pants were kind of a lifesaver for me because it just kept me warm after my watch and getting rained on for the whole night. But once again, you don't really need to have them, so you don't have to go out and buy them. They're not needed. And then we have Neuroprene socks. These are on the optional part of the Seabase packing list, and where I can see in some senses they'd be good. My crew never used them. I was the only one who even took them out and used them once, just so I could try them out. They didn't really do much, but if you're prone to blisters on your feet, they could definitely help out with that on your fins. However, you need to remember that they are not as non-slippery as your feet. Your feet are actually pretty good at keeping you stable, and these are less so. However, you can go and buy diving rated ones that have like a full rubber bottom, and that is what my captain recommended if we were to go and actually get some of those. And lastly, two small items. We have rope gloves. I was the only one who used them on my trek, but I loved them. I worked with rope more than most of the people on my crew, but if you're intent on getting into sailing and actually joining the captain in his sailing, I'd recommend packing those, and they're really nice. They're not on the packing list, but we got them anyway, and I'd definitely recommend to grab those. And the last, for clothing and just clothing's sake, we have a buff. This is a great thing to have. It definitely kept the sun off my neck, and those who didn't use it regretted not using it. And I think they're a great piece of outdoors gear. When I went to Philmont, I used it all the time, and it's just amazing to keep the sun off your neck. Okay, moving on to some miscellaneous items. My shoes are Keens. Basically everyone on my crew had Keens. We never use them on the boat because the boat is always a barefoot environment. However, on midweek we use them. However, midweek was pretty short for us. We just got off and took showers and came back to the boat. So some light tennis shoes or something. However, Keens are very nice, and I definitely liked using mine. Over here we have my snorkel, just a normal snorkel and mask. I'd recommend testing your snorkel and mask before you go in, like, say, your pool or something before you go, just because you'd never really know how good your snorkel is going to work out until you actually get in the water. And unfortunately, I had to figure out the bad way with another snorkel that it started leaking and the snorkel wasn't very good. So remember, you're going to be in a bit of choppy waves, so your snorkel could get hit, and if it comes off, it's not very good. Now moving on to my sleep system. So I brought a 4-class inflatable air mattress. This is my favorite air mattress that I own, and it is wonderful for backpacking and stuff like that, so I brought it along. Additionally, I brought my mummy liner. This is a Cocoon mummy liner, and then my Sea to Summit pillow. I love this pillow. This is a great pillow. One recommendation I have is where this is more comfortable, an inflatable sleeping pad is more comfortable, the collapsible version, like this Nemo Switchback, is can be preferable on the boat, considering it is a small area, and it is a little tough to reinflate this and inflate it at night, especially because at night it got quite windy, and I was always worried that this would blow away. However, I found a spot in the boat where it wouldn't necessarily blow away, so I kept it inflated over the night while I was in watch and stuff like that. Something to consider, that maybe packing a collapsible sleeping pad is preferable, however not mandatory. You can definitely go with your inflatable sleeping pad. I had a fine time, but if I were to sleep on the front of the boat, it might be a little more risky. Same thing with a pillow. The inflatable pillow is rather light because it's obviously inflated, so it is a little scary at night just worrying about it blowing away. So I deflated it and put it in a bag while I was sleeping. Mummy liners, a lot of our crew members did not use them because it was just that warm on the boat. However, I like that little feeling of a sheet over me, so I brought it and it worked well. do not recommend, at least for the summer portions, bringing anything more than that. Because of course you can double up in clothes, or like even your towel would be better than bringing a larger sleeping pad. So more miscellaneous items, I have my water bottle. This is a Camelback water bottle, but Nalgene and everything else great. They have the insulator pads for these Nalgenes. I definitely recommend getting these. It is burning hot and you are getting blasted with sun, and the best thing is drinking a bit of cold water, and you don't really have the cold water for very long because the ice keeps melting. So I'd recommend getting these to keep your cold water as cold as you can and for as long as you can. Along with drink containers, I have this brandable mug that I got when I went to Philmont. I didn't use it because I'm not much of a coffee drinker, but if you are, I definitely recommend bringing one. And you can also get it branded at Philmont, obviously. Branded at Seabase. I brought a small knife. This is a sailing specific knife that I got, that my grandfather gave to me. It is sailing specific as it has it helps with knots and untying them, and a rope specific knife. However, I did not use it for any sailing applications. I mostly used it for cutting open packaging. A knife is not needed, and you definitely don't need to bring more than one. And as long as like one person on your crew has a knife basically at all times, you'll be fine, because you use that to cut open packaging, which is basically what you're using it for. So moving on to some sunglasses, definitely recommend some sunglasses. There is always the risk of losing them, so maybe a cheap repair is more advisable. However, none of my crew members needed or lost their sunglasses, or even got them damaged. In regards to that, there's stuff to put on your glasses to make them float. This is called a goggle bobber. I don't necessarily recommend this one because it is quite big and continuously fell off of my sunglasses. However, there are some other brands out there and some other types of floatable straps that I would definitely recommend. And lastly, some of the section over here. So in this section over here, I have my miscellaneous items, my toiletries, and some of my items that I used as crew leader, as well as just some comfort items for me. Over here, I have my headlamp, definitely a need. Battery operated can be preferable, however mine is rechargeable and lasted me the whole week without even needing a recharge. Of course, a toothpaste and toothbrush to keep yourself hygienic. And then we have bug spray. You might think bug spray, why bug spray at while you're in the ocean? You're still camping close to land, you're still anchoring close to land, and those bugs can get quite bad at night. And my crew suffered from quite a lot of bug bites, so I was happy that I brought that along. So I'd recommend bringing that along as well. Some chafing powder. I didn't really experience any of it, neither did anyone on my crew, but it is still a risk that you should be ready to mitigate. So I have both powder, and then I have basically a cream or an ointment that was nice for me. And then I also have some soap. You get a midweek, and you likely will get a shower on that midweek, so you can bring some more comfort items such as like shampoo or even conditioner and body wash. You can bring all three of those, like in the small containers that you find at hotels. I brought my camp suds that I brought to Philmont and showered with at Philmont. It worked fine, but just know that you have enough room in your bag to be able to pack that. And now to some of the electronics and writing section over there. So over there I have a blue case for my phone that I kept my phone in. I have a yellow case for a rechargeable battery, which was nice, and to have on standby for recharging my phone or recharging my watch, and other things such as those. I also, in regards to electronics, I also brought my watch. This is a Garmin Instant Solar Tactical. I know, a very long name, but it's a great watch. I love it a lot. It's my everyday wear watch. However, it's a bit overkill for while you're out there. As long as your watch can tell time, and as long as your watch can set timers. I set timers for my watch, for my watches and stuff like that. but it's always a nice thing to have. Additionally, over there I had a notebook, so I had 2 notebooks, 2 waterproof Right in the Rain notebooks, and I used those to take notes, and I journaled while I was on the trip. Additionally, I have a Sharpie, a fine point Sharpie, a pencil, a pen, and this alcohol pen. This alcohol pen is used for, I laminated some of my crew leader documents, and I was able to write in Sharpie, and if I needed to erase, I could use the alcohol pen and erase the Sharpie. It's a great thing to have, especially when you're on wet environments where you don't want it to be able to wash away, but you want to be able to erase your things. Now, all the bags that I stored the stuff in. So I chose to purchase the Sea-Base duffel bag. I think it was a great decision. It was nice to be able to actually pack into what I brought. And of course, another duffel bag is never a bad thing. But of course you can't always do that. So just remember to just remember to read the size constrictions on the Sea-Base website so you don't overpack. But this is actually a quite big bag. I don't remember the size of it right now, but I'll put it up on screen. And this was a great bag to pack into. It was very modular, and you'll definitely enjoy having this bag. In addition to that bag, I have dry bags that I put all this stuff in. So for example, my fleece I put in this blue small dry bag. These are dry bags that I just got off Amazon. They're from Outdoor Products, and they're great dry bags. I've been using them forever. I put my clothes in a red one, which is the size up. I put my rain gear in another red one, and then I put my toiletries, my headlamp, and my wallet. So basically things that I wanted to keep dry in the other blue one. And that is it for my gear. And now we're going to move on to my patrol gear, or my troop gear. So now on to crew gear. That's what it's called, not patrol gear or troop gear. But I forgot that before, so crew gear. Okay, so basically what crew gear on the packing list includes is mainly just paperwork, and that's not something we want to go over here because that's all boring. But if you want me to, just leave me a comment and we can go through that later. But right now is just the gear portion of crew gear. Something that I don't have that I want to address before, something we did have but I don't have, is a lock, and that's for your locker. It's a pretty big locker, but then again it's not that big to bring like suitcases for all of you. So that goes back to the packing into the duffel bag that I suggested. However, small duffel bags would definitely be able to fit in this locker. Moving on from that, here we have just all the gear. What I packed it into is a military style duffel bag. I had one left over from Philmont. You can buy them online or at Amazon or like any surplus store for pretty cheap. But we had 2 of them. That's the max you can have, 2 military style duffel bags. What mainly we had in these was a first aid kit, and then the sleeping supplies for a lot of my crew, especially those who brought stuff like this, the collapsible sleeping pad. Those needed to fit in here. So yeah, that's why you bring the 2 of them. Otherwise, we have some dry bags, which came in handy for a plethora of things, just to keep things dry or keep wet things wet. I mean, keep wet things from making other things wet. They're just always great to have, and I like having a bunch of dry bags with me at all times whenever I go camping. Some main things is aloe and sunscreen. You want to bring a lot of these, but then again, because you have to go through airport security if you're flying in, it might be a little harder. So you can always buy them. They sell a bunch of them at the Sea-Base store. We bought both of these at the Sea-Base store, I believe, unless we bought this a little earlier. Some aloe, like that is definitely very good thing to have. And then they sell sunscreen at the store. You can get the variety of different types of sunscreen. Most of the like traditional, as long as they're not aerosol, they're most likely okay at Sea-Base. These are Sunbum and this Lifeguard one, as well as some specifically reef safe options. Something I liked was Sunbum has one of these sticks that has a roller at the end. I thought that was pretty interesting and a rather nice application of sunscreen. Now moving on to the first aid kit. I can do a deep dive into my first aid kit if you'd like to see that. However, it's a little overkill for this type of trip. Just make sure you have some waterproof band-aids, some gauze, and your medications, your Advil or ibuprofen, your acetaminophen or Tylenol. Something we had was a meclizine or Dramamine, something for seasickness. That definitely helped my crew a lot, especially those who have a history of seasickness, and even some who don't. We discovered some on the trip, but we were able to handle it, and with the meclizine or Dramamine. Some other considerations would be eye drops. We packed those. We didn't really use them, but they're definitely a good thing to have for the salt water that you get in your eyes. I think that's it for the first aid kit. Once again, I can do a deep dive into that, but it's a bit overkill for this situation. Just have those few things. Over here we have 2 solar panels. Of course, you can unplug while you're out there, but that's not really our choice. We chose to stick in. It was nice to be able to, you have Wi-Fi, or at least, no, not Wi-Fi, you have cellular service basically every night, because you're not that far away from shore. So I was able to call home, and that was quite nice. But to keep your phone charged, keep your other electronics charged, such as we had a GoPro and some waterproof cameras, so that was nice to keep them charged with these solar panels. We have 2 different types. We have this Aki, and we have the Big Blue. Both were pretty good. I found the Aki seemed to work better, but that may have just been a fluke. Additionally, in the center, we have, this was my basically crew bag, and this was a dry bag that I kept clipped on the top side of the ship, on the top side of the sailboat to one of the many clips, just so it was very accessible. In this bag we had a bunch of drink mixes. You want to stay hydrated, but sometimes water, and especially when it's not cold water, is hard to down, so drink mixes are very good. And other than that, we had some noon supplements, and this was an electrolyte supplement, which is very good for especially when you're sweating a lot, and this one was a caffeine supplement, although we didn't necessarily need that because the people who needed caffeine were already getting it through the coffee. Additionally, I had this bag and we clipped it up topside. I already talked about that, but the importance of that is just so it's accessible, and we put the sunscreen in it as well, so that just everyone has it is in a centralized location. We also had these Dramamine supplements, Dramamine chews that were to relieve nausea, as well as the meclizine Dramamine was in there as well. Something I forgot to talk about was just the accessibility of clipping everything. So I have the clip on the dry bag, and that was nice, but I also had carabiners on my mug and my water bottle, and that is a must considering you're clipping it to the boat, just so it doesn't fall off. So that, I believe, is all my crew gear, and next we have just the closing statements and some recommendations that I have. Okay, so we're at the final segment of the video. This is just my closing thoughts and some suggestions that I have. So, some suggestions. We have the liner for your water bottles, and that keeps them cold, and it's just really nice to have cold water for as long as you possibly can. Over here we have the buffs. Great, definitely a must-have for keeping the sun off your face and your neck and mitigating the risk of sunburn. We have the rope gloves. If you plan on sailing and working with rope, definitely recommend. Saved my hands a bunch of blisters. For the crew, for your crew leaders and your just your crew as general, a crew bag that's up top that everyone knows where it is, everyone knows what it looks like, for your for your seasickness stuff, for your drink mix, and for your sunscreen. Great idea. Definitely recommend for everyone who goes to sea base. A fleece. So this was a point of contention for my crew. Most people said that it was one of their biggest things that they wish they didn't bring. I do not believe that it was much of a bad thing, but if you have a bulky fleece, maybe something to consider not bringing. Then aloe, definitely something I recommend bringing, considering most people do get sunburn, and you want to mitigate the pain, and this provides a lot of relief and starts the healing process. Just a great thing to have while you're out on a sailboat for that long. And last, the sleeping pads. This is of course personal preference, and if you want to have your inflatable one that go for that. However, I found that there's more versatility with that, considering you can make it shorter and you can make it longer. Well, I guess you could just make it shorter and have it full length. You can make it shorter so it can fit into different spaces and you can curl up, and it is less likely to blow away. But yeah, those are my closing remarks. Thank you for watching this video, and please consider liking and subscribing. Till next time.